You forgot to hit. Yeah. Hey, one of the things that we get quite often is tenants want to rent a property, but then they don't know the steps. What are the steps, in your opinion, of what a tenant needs to do to qualify for a rental property?
So the first thing you're going to want to do is go on the website, find the property you like, and book the appointment through our viewing, um, our calendar
Yeah.
app.
And we have been struggling a little bit with our calendar app, and I think we've kind of figured it out now. So when we do a booking, we now can book up to 15 people on each calendar time.
Yeah.
And we do it in 15 to 30-minute blocks. So what happens if I show up and there's 10 people at the place? What do I do as a 10?
So we do show everybody individually. So if you show up and there's actually already people waiting, it does not mean we'll be renting it on the spot or anything like that. We do show it to everybody that shows up, and everybody gets a private viewing of it. We just might double up the times on the bookings, so you might have to wait 5 minutes or so to see the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody gets to see the house and find out all the details about it.
And that's where we really do ask you, please be patient, because we're trying our best to get everybody into the property, get a good feel of the property so they can know if they want to rent it or not. And you might have to just wait outside. So people just need to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something I get asked quite often is do we rent sight unseen? Like, would you rent to somebody without them actually being into the property?
No, we definitely want you to come into the property and see the property. We understand sometimes people are from out of town and things like that. If you can get someone else to come see it, that's a really great idea. We will do FaceTime or Zoom showings, but we really do want you to come into the building and actually see the property itself.
Yeah. So I know from personal experience, because I've been burned myself. I see this ad and I think, man, that place is going to be the best property. So I reach out, I talk to the supposed landlord. To me, renting to somebody without seeing it, or like getting into the property or having somebody come in, has scam written all over.
Yeah.
So if you're a tenant and you're really searching for a property and you see that one and it seems too good to be true, well, generally it is too good to be true. Don't just jump at it. You want to make sure and meet that landlord. You want to, get into the property. If you physically can't get into the property, we have other ways that we can show it to you. Like the other day, we did a virtual walkthrough.
Yep.
What do you think of those?
Yep, they work. And the thing we try and do on those virtual showings is we actually point out to you any flaws and things like that, as well as this is the beautiful house, because we don't want you coming in when you are ready to rent and be like, well, you didn't tell me that, there's a little bit of damage here or a little bit of issues here and there. So we definitely do try and show you all of that stuff so you have a really good idea of what the house looks like.
Yeah, and in that showing that we were doing the other day, we did do the virtual. One of the things that it kept coming to my mind is the tenants that are there, they were moving.
Mm-hmm.
So we had so many moving boxes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mess, and the tenants were doing a good job. But how do we show the reality of what's underneath a stack of boxes?
Right.
So if you're on virtual, and that even goes for a person as well. If you're there in person and there's a stack of boxes there, we can't guarantee what's underneath there. And I hate to say it, people do try to hide damage. I mean, the picture on the wall down at knee level, the box in the middle of the room for some reason. It's kind of one of those red flags that might be something we're looking at, right?
Yep.
So really, really important. We want you to be there. So we do the mass showings. Now, I've seen the property. It is the one that I love. I'm in love with that property. Now, what do I do?
So the next step is to fill out the application form. And we really need every person that's going to be living at the house, every adult that's going to be living at the house, to fill out an application form in full. Our application forms are quite long because we do check everything, but fill out the whole application form.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things that people ask me all the time is, do I have to give my social security number? There is a block there. It's not required. And if you don't feel comfortable giving me your social security number, which I don't care, just put in all zeros. A number will actually lock it out so that you can bypass that step. But we need as much. Now, it's kind of funny because our application gives a percentage.
Yep.
So people look at it, they get it halfway filled out, and then all of a sudden they're at 60, 70%. and they're panicking because they didn't get 100%.
Yeah.
Do we have to get 100% on our application?
No, I think it would actually be very hard to get 100%. And that's not actually a mark. It's just saying how many of the boxes you filled out. So yeah, it's not, if you got 100%, it does not mean you 100% get the rental property. It just means you filled out every single box.
That's right.
Mhm.
So don't panic when you get that. Now, okay, so we've done the showing, we've got the application. Does that just mean now that I'm going to go ahead, the property manager is just going to go ahead and pre-approve you, or what's going to happen?
No, so you then want to reach out to us and say, hey, I came and saw the house. I've now filled out the application forms. I really want the property. Because right now, Jody and I have 14 properties for rent. We have 14, and we have quite a few people applying for those 14 properties. So, so if you filled out the application form, you know it's the house you want, reach out to us, because then we can go in, we can actually find your application, and we can process through it. It also helps us, like if there's roommates or spouses and things like that, you can just tell us, Jane and Kate and Sally are all renting together, and can you check our application forms?
Yeah, and that's a really good point you bring up there. If I'm renting as a group, or even a husband and a wife, can I have one application for everybody, or do we have to have separate applications for everybody?
We want separate applications for everybody.
Yeah, and that is really quite critical, because we need to be able to have everybody's information so that we can do a proper screening. Now, once we have those applications, we can join those all together and we put you on one lease, but we do have to have individual. I just had actually this morning a husband and a wife, and I had the application for the husband, but then he wanted the wife added on, but I need a physical application filled out by her so that I can join them on the lease. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So the only time we don't need an application from an adult is, let's say mom and dad are renting a house and they have a 22-year-old who's going to be living with them. Unless the 22-year-old is going to be paying rent and helping with that situation, then I don't want an application form from that 22-year-old.
Why would we want that?
Yeah.
They just become an occupant.
Yeah.
Or potentially a roommate. If somebody's living with somebody else, but they're not on the hook for the money, they just become a roommate.
Yep.
What happens in the case where I just might not qualify? Do we take cosigners? Like, is there something like that we could do?
Yeah, so we actually do take cosigners, and it's a great way, for our students, our young people, things like that, or anybody that has had a little bit of trouble, but they've got a cosigner that's willing to say, "Yeah, I will step in if anything happens."
Yeah. Now, the big thing on the cosigner, I just want to point out though, once that cosigner is on there, they are really on the hook.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to just forget about them. They actually do become somewhat responsible for what that tenant does.
Yeah.
So as a tenant, please don't screw over your mom and dad by not paying the rent, because it is going to affect them. Okay, so we've got the application. Now, how long does it generally take?
And now it really depends on how busy Jody and I are. So if we're out showing houses all day and we have appointments all day, we cannot get into the office to actually approve that application form. But if we know you want the property, you've got a really well filled out application form, then we can usually go through it fairly fast. We try our best to do it within 24 hours. If it's on a weekend, though, we do need to pull credit, so we'd have to do that during regular office hours.
Yeah, and one of the things that I quite often get tripped up on that takes quite a delay is we do check landlord references.
Yeah.
Like, that's really important. So if I'm reaching out to a landlord and they don't respond back to me, it makes it hard for me to get back to the prospective tenant, within a timely manner, because I can't get that landlord reference.
Yeah.
So as a tenant, really, or as prospective tenant, it's really, really important to reach out to your landlord that you currently have and say, hey, like, listen, I've given you proper notice, which I hope you have, and the prospective landlord that I'm going to rent to is going to call you for a reference. Make sure they know. Otherwise, that's going to trip us up. It's going to hold us up. I mean, I've got one that's probably a week and a half now, and I can't move forward on their application because I cannot verify any pertinent information about it.
Now, one thing you can do too is, if you've rented from, like, say, a big company or something like that, when you leave that company, ask them to write you a reference letter, because if you've been a good tenant, we would love to see a reference letter from a reputable property management company.
Yeah, and I do see those, and there's some really good companies that'll do that.
Yeah.
I know I do that every once in a while for our tenants
Yep.
as they're going out. So feel free to reach out to us if you're one of those tenants. Now, okay, so we now have got all the information. We've got you the approval. Once we've got the approval, what happens from that point?
So we'll reach out to you and let you know that congratulations, you're approved for your property. And then we will send you the lease by DocuSign for you to sign. Now, just because we've sent you that message saying congratulations, the property is yours, it is not yours until you have signed and returned that document.
Okay, great. We got the lease back now, and it is officially the property of the tenant. So what is the next step? We've got everything done. What does the tenant do now?
You'll be sent a link to a portal. So that portal is where you will go for any information you want about your property. You can log in at any time. You can see what you owe and things like that. You can get all of your documents from there. You can even put in service requests after you've moved in from there. So that will come to you. You want to make sure you log in and get familiarized with that document. And then you look out for an email or a text message from us letting you know when the move-in date will be so that we can book a time for the move-in.
And that's something I get asked all the time. Okay, so they know May 1st is when their lease starts. Can they move in April 10th, April 20th? Like, when can I move in?
Right. So if the property is vacant in April and your lease starts in May, you can definitely talk to us and we can prorate rent, but you do have to pay for those days that you'd be in the house if you're moving in early. You would also have to have your security deposit paid in full before we can give you the keys and any rent owing before we can give you keys.
Yeah, and that's really, really important. We cannot give you the keys to move in if we don't have the money paid. Like that's just a home time rule. We cannot break that. So
Yeah.
as much as you might want to ask us, can you wait? We just can't. It's a
No.
home time rule. We cannot give you possession of the property until we have those two payments made.
Yeah.
Month's rent and security deposit.
Yeah.
So please understand that that's something we can't. Now, the other thing that I often think is people get mad at me, and I did get somebody who was mad at me just the other day because I could not let them move in. They really want to move in on the 27th, but the outgoing tenant isn't going to move out until the last day of the month.
Yeah.
When does a tenant have to move out? And when does a tenant have to, or can a tenant move in?
So a tenant has to move out by noon on the last day of their month of tenancy. So they have to be out by noon. And then the new tenant gets possession at noon on the 1st. And that 24 hours then gives us time to get the property clean, get any repairs done, and things like that. Now, we can sometimes be a little bit flexible on it, but it's sometimes. We cannot guarantee it. So this month we have quite a few people moving out and moving in. So we're going to be flexible on those times. Some people are going to get to move in at 9 a.m. because we can't do everybody's move in at noon. But it just depends on what the condition of the property is. So if the property needs to be cleaned, then it won't be till noon that you get the keys.
Yeah, and it really sucks. Like I understand that 24 hours, like because you're moving out, then you can't move in for 24 hours. So what does the tenant do? Like my heart breaks for him.
Yeah.
In most cases, we will try our darndest to get them in.
Yeah.
But it really is dependent on whether or not that tenant going out is got the house ready. So if I show up and you as a tenant moving out, you haven't cleaned, you haven't moved your stuff, and you're still there, well, how the hell am I going to move somebody else in? You can't. I've had the worst experiences. I literally last fall had a tenant moving out with the tenant moving in. They had moved all of their belongings onto the front lawn because they didn't have a moving truck for long enough. So they're partying the seas with their stuff down the sidewalk with people moving out. And then everybody's mad at me because the house isn't ready. Well, we have little control over that.
Yeah.
Now we do have some fantastic vendors
We do.
that
Yes.
we kind of get special treatment for. So if we need last minute cleaning done, they can't come in, but it's going to cost you extra. I was the same one that I was talking about was in July 1st. Well, now we're on the long weekend.
January's tough on that too.
Yeah, January's tough on that too.
New Year's Day.
So now we're calling in a cleaner on the last day of the month. Well, as an outgoing, you're going to end up paying more for that cleaning cost. So it really is a challenge. So now we're at the move-in day. Can I just show up and get the keys from you, or what do I have to do?
No, we have to meet you at the house, and we meet you there. We make sure your payments have been made, and then we do a very detailed inspection of the property with you. It's not great if you've got your mover standing there waiting or your family all there waiting to help move your stuff in. It really just needs to be the tenant and us who meets, and we go through everything in the house and document everything really well.
Yeah, I can't emphasize how important that move-in inspection is. So the move-in inspection serves as your starting point
Mm-hmm.
of what the property is, so that when you move out, you're not getting deductions for things that might be. I mean, we try our darndest to make sure the house is clean, but if the house isn't clean when you move in, then we can do either an adjustment on the um first one, like we give you a credit, we can charge it. If there's a broken window, we don't want you to get charged for that window at the end. So it's really important to have that baseline move-in inspection.
I always really like to tell the tenants too, as you're moving in, take pictures yourself. Like I will be taking pictures, I will be documenting, but just go through and take pictures yourself and then just send yourself an email with this. These were the damages when I moved in, just to protect yourself.
Yeah, like it's just really, really important. So yeah, so those are kind of the basic steps. We can go into greater detail on that with you if you want to reach out to us, but those are the details of what the process is to rent a property.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.